Alright, do I know what I'm doing? Maybe? No. Is it this one? It's probably this one. There we go! Yay! I'm still learning my fancy little buttons. I should label them. If I was smart, I would make little stickers and label them. You can see! Yay! It's a good day. We're learning. We're learning how to be pro streamer. We're figuring it out, Jay. But it's actually cool enough in the office today that you get to see the explosion happening. Hi, you're here. Hello, Donz. We have made some decent progress. It doesn't look like it, but it's been made. We've got about 20 or so pieces sewn together. Right now I'm working on doing the stripes that are like that have the little black sections inside of them and getting those sewn together, and then we'll sew stripes into pieces after that, and we'll sew those pieces to other pieces and so on and so forth until eventually it's a full suit. But you know, for right now we've got most of these big stripes sewn. There's this one and then this one left, I think, and these are the biggest ones. And then I think after that we'll be able to sew some of the teeny tiny stripes into their spots, because the issue I have right now is I don't want to lose the small pieces of fur, like, because there's some stripes that are this big and then there's stripes that are, you know, this big. Kind of hard to lose a stripe this big. Really easy to lose a stripe this big though. So we're going to sew in the little teeny tiny stripes to their spots. And then we're going to figure out what pieces can be sewn in. Odds are we're going to get the arms pretty much done first. Because a lot of those pieces are fairly easy to sew into their spaces. And then we'll be able to go down. It's looking like we'll have to do the arms, get all their pieces down on the forearms, but then as we get up into the shoulder area, it's going to get more difficult, and we'll have to connect the back of the shoulder area to the front shoulder area, because there's a lot of overlap between the white and the black pieces there, so we need the white and the black pieces connected first before we can actually sew these in, if that makes sense. So it's it's like a real funky puzzle. And it's gonna look funky for a hot minute until we actually get it all together. Upside, when everything is hand sewn in, that'll make it a lot easier to go back over with the sewing machine on the pieces that need it. Because smaller pieces like this black piece here, don't necessarily need to be double stitched because they're not going to have a lot of tension on them. They're small enough that a single pass with blanket stitch should be fine. But bigger pieces like this, where you have a long section that is getting sewn, I would much rather put a double stitch on that, because that's more likely to blow out at some point. So across the top seam of like this stripe here, we're going to do a straight stitch and then go back over it with the sewing machine later, so it'll be double stitched over. And then a lot of the white is actually going to get machine sewn, surprisingly, because we have to sew the zipper in. So the crotch seam and the white is also a hard, confusing piece, because there's the front section and there's the back section, but they have to be connected at the crotch, which I actually have to shave those pieces. I have to shave the butt pieces for the whites. That way they won't get so matted and dingy over time. Because you don't need all of the extra long fur in the crotch or underneath the tail hole. So it's going to get shaved just a little bit right there. But I have to figure out what part of it is actually crotch and what part of it is inner leg, you know, because there is the section that goes over the inner part of the thigh, and then it comes up to the crotch and up the back and up the front. So these are confusing pieces. But they'll get sewn together, and they'll get the zippers sewn in, and that'll make it a lot easier to do the legs. Because right now on the floor there, what you guys can see is the butt pieces for the white. And off the sides of those butt pieces is actually the thigh for the suit. At least some of it. This big black piece here that's really funkily shaped is one huge piece of fur. And it wraps around the thigh and actually touches the white in multiple spots. Which makes it really hard to lay out all of these pieces right here behind me. Because those are the ankle and other thigh pieces that all connect together. So I won't be able to actually do much with those until we figure that out. But we're going to get all of the individual stripes like so sewn first. Because that's easiest. That's kind of the easiest chunk of pieces to put together. And it makes more sense to sew the inner parts of these in first and then sew them into the suit rather than trying to sew on an entire bodysuit later, teeny tiny little pieces. So that has been the last few days of sewing. Is just doing this. And watching a lot of roller coaster videos because I'm on a roller coaster kick right now. I know 115 is an insane number, honestly. Because I've done some other complicated suits before that had some complex designs, like Phonetic's suit had a decent amount of pieces because he had spots on the head and he had stripes that wrapped around his body. There's also, oh goodness, who is the saber-toothed tiger? I'm blanking on their name right now. Hold on. I could tell you guys, but they were a saber-toothed tiger mix that I did not too long ago, and they had 9 separate colors that ended up being a lot of pieces, but even that didn't have Cassian, that's who, and they had some stripes and stuff, and there was a decent amount that had to be hand sewn, but I was still able to machine sew most of their bodysuit together with a few pieces that were hand sewn. This one, you have broken the record for me, my personal record, for the number of pieces on a bodysuit. And also the number of pieces on a bodysuit that have to be hand sewn. Because normally I can do most of a bodysuit machine sewn. You know, like there's just kind of ankle chunk, thigh chunk, torso chunks, and then arms. And they all get machine sewn to themselves and then to the torso, and then it's done. And it usually takes me about 3 to 5 days. I know, he's just over here vibing. He doesn't fit in the bin with the other pre-mades, and I worry about his ears getting warped. So he's hanging out up there while I'm not using the printer. It's fine. Yeah, no, normally making a bodysuit takes me about a week, give or take a couple days. But normally I don't have to hand sew pretty much the entire bodysuit. So I fully expect sewing this bodysuit to actually take me the rest of the month, give or take some days. Which is fine. I totally expected to have to hand sew pretty much all of this bodysuit, so I have already planned for that, and we're ahead of schedule anyway, so we're just gonna keep on trucking. Which is fine by me. But I'm so excited to see how all of these stripes are going to turn out by the time we're done with it. Because there is a couple ways we could go about doing the stripes. Aside from, you know, sewing them in, if that makes sense. Because, as you can see when we sew them in, they kind of have a natural soft look to them. They aren't super sharp and crispy. So we could leave them this way and give him a very, very fluffy, soft, fluffy cat look. Or we could trim straight lines across to make the design sharper and more defined. Which means he won't look quite as fluffy, but he'll look crispy, you know? A lot of people like the crispy look. We could also mix and match and have certain shapes be crispy and other shapes look fluffy. There's a lot of ways we could go about it as far as any trimming we decide to do on the bodysuit, so... There's so many options. Creativity is afloat. That is the fun part of making fursuits, is just the variation in what you can do with suits. Is really all limited to what you can think up for a suit, you know? Normally, a lot of people look for the crispy, and they like having the very defined shapes, but there's some people that really like the soft and fluffy look. And usually you kind of just get one or the other, but some people like to go middle of the road and say, I want these stripes to be crispy, but the rest of them could be fluffy, or, you know, they want certain sections fully shaved, or things like that, and that's where you get a lot of the fun playing with different lengths and textures of fur, which is always fun. I like playing with textures and patterns and stuff like that in my suits. Like, Patch has the crochet sections on him with the short UV beaver, or is it UV Teddy? It's UV Teddy. And then I do have a plan for some personal suits coming up that I'm kind of playing around with the fur length on. I think overall we're going to do a pretty standard short pile length. The unfortunate thing is, because colors are limited for that project, I'm going to have to buy shag and then shave several dozen yards of shag. Because I don't have the colors I want in shorter piles, which happens sometimes and is very annoying and tedious to do, but oh well, we'll live. That's future me's problem. Current me's problem is doing a lot of blanket stitching. Current me is not enthused. As much as I like making fursuits, I hate doing a blanket stitch. It's very tedious, if you ask me, because you have to sit here to wrap each stitch and pull, versus like a straight stitch where you could just kind of zip, 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 and it's done, you know? But blanket stitches also look so pretty. Like, I'll show you guys the way this, the seam is gonna lay once I'm done here, because I'm already almost done sewing this chunk together. But it just creates such a nice seam. And a blanket stitch is beneficial because it makes for a flexible seam as well, while also adding a little bit of extra support along the top of the seams. The problem I have is this thread, while simultaneously it's very slippery and very sticky, it likes to slide out of knots sometimes, which is why I leave a little bit of extra tails when I tie off. And it also likes to not be consistent when you're threading it through a stitch. So a lot of times I'll get small loops from just one side of the thread because it is doubled up, and the other side's perfectly fine. And that's very annoying, because then I have to go back and fix it. It's like, my old thread didn't do this, but my old thread also wasn't nearly as strong as this. This is like upholstery thread, and it is very strong and should not give way nearly as often. Because I have had issues with my older suits that I used to make. I'd say, because when did I start using this? Anything before 2023, I believe. Used Coates & Clark Dual Duty, this stuff, on literally the entire suit. And it's fine, it's a decent thread. It's also why I double stitched my bodysuits. Because I know for a fact that I could sit here, I could take this thread, and I can just... Ow. if I feel like destroying my fingers, I could in fact pull it and pop a seam fairly easily just with my hands. But also thread hurts. Like I now have a divot in my pinky because I'm an idiot. I'm also really dehydrated, I would assume. But that's pretty on par for me. Anyway. There we go, we've been rehydrated. Pinky healing can commence. But this stuff is, while it's pretty strong for an all-purpose thread, is not a super strong thread. It's, like, this is doubled up, and it's pretty thin. Versus this, which this is a single thread, and it's almost the same thickness as doubled up Coats & Clark. And it has a fairly high weight range, if I remember right. I forget what the weight is on this. I think it might be 70 pounds of tension. I forget. But we also use that doubled up, so it works a lot better than the old stuff as far as bodysuits go. I still use the old stuff for thinner fabrics like the lining, because lining is not something that has a whole lot of tension on it, and because cotton is so thin compared to fur, it does not need upholstery on it. It just kind of destroys the fabric more than it stitches it together, so it's better to use the thinner thread. So I'll use it on lining, and I'll oftentimes use it for when I'm hand sewing face pieces, because that stuff is going to get glued down anyway, and the thicker thread isn't necessarily needed there because there's not a bunch of tension. That being said, parts like around the mouth line and the ears that I have to go back and ladder stitch in later that do have a lot of tension on them do get the thicker thread on them because there's a lot of tension there and it's needed. So I do use both threads. Surprisingly, they're actually, like, per yardage, they're pretty much a similar price. The real difference is that I can get 6 of these spools for like 20 bucks. And these are 400 yard spools. So I can get 2,000 yards for about $20. This is a 5,000 yard spool, right? I don't remember. This is a lot of thousands of yards though, but each of these giant spools is $80 or 40, something like that. I think it's 80 for both spools because I have a black one and I have a white one. So it's just a really expensive upfront cost for one of those spools. But they do last me quite a while. Like, I'm still on my first set of those spools and I bought them about a year ago. So they last quite a while because they have so much yardage on them. Scissors. There we go. I'm actually going to tuck in. But yeah, so there's points where it's better to use thinner thread and points where it's better to use thicker thread. It just all depends on what you're doing. But now we've got this really, really pretty, I don't know how well you can see it because it's the black stitching on the black fur, but we have this really pretty, nice little blanket stitch seam, which is nice because then it's flexible. And I think it just gives it a nice cleaner edge. Especially since we're not going to go over this piece in particular, this edge right here, with the sewing machine, because this is not going to get a lot of pressure on it. If there is pressure put against this piece, it's going to affect the yellow more than it's going to affect the black, because the black is a small enough piece that it's not going to get a lot of direct tension on it in comparison. Whereas this piece, which is 201, this is actually the rear hip chunk right here. So this will be sewn in right here. And since we're not doing any rear padding on you, because it wasn't necessary for the leg shapes, the leg shape, the padding that is required in suits varies. Because some people, like me, have no ass and need some booty padding in order to get the digigrade look to be shaped properly. Because otherwise it just looks like it's stuck on front of you and it doesn't actually flow with your body. And then other people do not need the extra padding because it flows just fine. And it really just depends. It depends on how thick the padding is and the shape of the person's body and stuff like that. And everyone's different, so It varies. Some people need a lot of butt padding, like me. Some people need just a little, some people need none. I, however, am not caked up in the slightest. So, I have a bony ass. The thing is padding can put a lot of tension, because not only is the person in there, you know, wearing the suit and moving around, flexing, but the padding has the possibility of being overstuffed, and the force of putting in the padding as well as wearing it and wearing the suit can be stressful on the seams. So anywhere around like the shoulders or the waistline, the knees are considered high tension areas, but the general waist and crotch area is the highest point of tension on fabric, so those absolutely always have to be double stitched. The upside is most people don't have teeny tiny details, like your suit, for example, does not have teeny tiny details right here in the crotch area, because that's a little silly. It's not exactly a part that people are looking at. It's not a part that is seen a lot, so people don't generally put teeny tiny details there. The inner thigh is a lot easier to put in small details, and it's a lot easier to see those details, and there's also not as much tension there. The highest point of tension is where all those seams meet, right in the middle, kind of like a pair of pants, you know, like there's the seam down the middle of the pants and the seam down the legs. That's a very high tension area. In between, you know, moving your legs around and squatting and standing and all that, it's a lot of tension over time, and it's a lot of stress on those seams, so they get double stitched. Granted, the entire suit gets double stitched as much as possible, but that is definitely a part that is focused on, because that is a part that is the most likely to fail, and also the most... personally, if you ask me, the part that we definitely don't want to fail while we're wearing it. I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather I have a thigh chunk blowout, like around the knee, rather than a crotch seam pop. Like, I don't want to be tearing my fursuit pants at a con. That would be hilarious, but also severely embarrassing. Especially if you're the kind of suitor who does not wear much underneath their suits. Like, in the summers, I wear a pair of bike shorts, which leave very little to the attention because they are very thin, and they are very short, but they help keep me cool in the summers when it's particularly hot. So I usually wear a pair of bike shorts under my suit, and it really looks like I'm just wearing a pair of gray boxers, which is not a great look, if you ask me, out in public, to be in just a pair of what looks like gray boxers. So I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want that seam to pop when I'm wearing that. I don't think I'd want it to pop when I'm in my winter get-up underneath, because I do get cold in fursuit in the winter. So I do wear full, like, normal t-shirt and sweatpants underneath my fursuits in the winter. But I get cold and hot very easily. I am very susceptible. I might as well be a reptile. Like, I am a lizard at this point. I just, I get so hot so easily, and that's because of medications, and I get so cold so easily, and that's because I'm a teeny tiny person who can't hold in their own body heat. Like, for everyone's reference, I am 5 feet tall, and I weigh 100 pounds, so I am itty bitty. I get mistaken for a middle schooler a lot. But the padding on fursuits does help keep me warm in the winter. I will say that. The padding does help keep me warm. But yeah, so there's a lot that goes into sewing a bodysuit and making sure that it will last as much as possible. Because the last thing we want is for a seam to pop and then have to get it fixed and be repaired and do all that work, you know? It is my goal to make unbreakable suits, which is probably impossible, but damn it, I'm going to keep trying, because if you don't have to get your suit repaired for the next 10 years, that is fucking amazing, you know? I like when repairs for suits are optional repairs, like, oh, I want to upgrade my eye blanks, or, oh, I want to add on this feature, you know? And not, hey, I was out suiting and this part of my suit exploded. Please fix. Because that just makes me feel bad. I really hate when that happens. And sometimes it does happen, you know? Things give way. It's just the nature of making things. It's... stuff gives way over time. But, if I can make it happen as little as possible, I'm going to. But yeah, suiting in the winter is amazing. Like, that's the most comfortable I've ever been in a fursuit, was when we went to the tree farm and did pictures. Because that was in the middle... when was that? Like, was that like December? January? I forget when exactly it was. But there was snow on the ground. There was several inches of snow on the ground. And it was cold out. And in fact, very freezing. And we took our suits out. I wore Patch out in the snow. And I was, like, mind you, I was a little cold. It was January, okay. I was a little cold because Patch is actually a 3/4 suit, so I had nothing on my torso as far as fursuit goes. It was just jackets. Many, I think I wore like 2 or 3 jackets that day. I layered them, so I had like a sweatshirt and then a coat, and then Patch's ramen noodle sweater on. And I was trying so hard to not freeze to death. But I was actually very comfortable, because once when you get moving around in a fursuit, it's kind of like wearing a snowsuit at that point, where you just kind of are warm. Downside, I sat in the snow, and Patch's tail is not attached to his body, and his butthole is a little bit on the larger side, unfortunately. I should cinch that up. So when I sat in the snow got in through his tail hole, and then my pants were covered in wet, cold snow water. Which then made my booty cold. And I was freezing. But other than that, it wasn't bad. If I hadn't sat in the snow, I would have been perfectly fine. And it was a lot of fun, you know? Like, we were out there for hours, weren't we? Like, quite a while suiting. And I was comfortable. Like, usually I go to a con, you know, like MCFC or something like that, and I'll suit for all of 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm dying. This is how I go. Miserable. I really need to get back into suiting under higher temperatures. Because I used to be able to, like, wear Alfie, his full suit, in the middle of summer when it was 90 degree out with a 100 degree index. No problem. Like, I was sweating like a horse, but I was, you know, perfectly fine in there. Yeah, I was gonna say your winter balaclava worked really well. Finally, a reason for the ski mask, and it's not to rob a bank. But yeah, it was fun. And I really need to get back into active suiting, you know? Because, like, I have the fursuits, and I do wear them to events and stuff, but I feel like I don't wear them as much as I used to, and I kind of miss it. I miss being able to literally sprint in my fursuit if I want to, around, and run around doing silly, goofy things, and actually perform in suit. Whereas these days I feel like I mostly just get into a suit, and I'm like, okay, let's go for a walk. And then I walk 20 feet, and I'm out of breath, and I'm hot, and I'm just ready to go back to the hotel room. This is bullshit. Like, it's very silly. Which sucks, you know, because, like, it's fun to go around in fursuit and do things. I will be honest, though, fursuiting is a lot more fun at events than it is at cons. So, like, when we do... personally, my favorite one is, like, the Johnson's meet that PJ does every year. And it's because it's not a furry thing, you know? So you're out there, you're doing stuff with other furries, sure. But there's also the general public out there, and they think... a lot of them think it's really cool, and, like, this amazing thing, and they want pictures and stuff. Whereas I feel like you go to a con, and everybody's in fursuits, so most people don't really care. You know, it's just normal at a con to see a lot of fursuiters and go, oh, that's cool. Anyway, I'm going to this panel. Versus being out in Frankenmuth or something, and people going, "Oh my god, that's so cool! Can I get a picture with you? I've never seen something like this before in my life." You know, like, and like with MCFC in particular, it is an 18+ con, so it's, you know, all adults, and even people who are at the hotel are mostly adults. So yes, and that's the thing, the kids love it. You know, it's really fun to be out and about somewhere and happen to be spotted by children, and they think it's the coolest thing ever, and it's like the most magical thing they've seen all day, if not their entire lives, because they're like 5 and they haven't seen anything in their life, let's be honest. So they go out and they see this giant, you know, yellow dog dancing to Cotton Eye Joe or some shit, you know? Like, they're just... And to see a whole group of furries, you know? Like, some kids are definitely scared of it. Some kids are very scared of the mascots and the fursuits, which is understandable, you know? They don't know what's going on half the time, and some people just have a fear of that. But the ones that love it, it is like a magical moment for them. It's really fun for me to be able to give them that little bit of, like, magic in their lives, that little bit of joy. Because for a kid, that's, like, amazing. It's like seeing a celebrity, you know? Like, they react the way to fursuits the way that grown adults react to seeing Taylor Swift. Like, it's just, it's fun. So I really do like going to these smaller events versus the bigger ones, versus the fur cons. And that's not to say that fur cons aren't fun. I really do enjoy going to panels and stuff. Yeah, I know, there are a lot of kids that are big fans of the skull masks. I noticed this at Midland, too, because there's very much a divide in children. Whenever we go to the Midland Comic-Con, there's, you know, a lot of kids there because there's events for the children, you know, like little coloring stuff. There's D&D games, there's the contests and the meet and greets with the cosplayers and stuff like that. But whenever the furries are out and the kids are excited at seeing the furries, there's the kids that are like, "Oh my god, bright pink cute doggo, I love them, they're pink," you know, like, there's those kids, and there's the kids that are like, "That thing right there looks like it could kill me. I love it. Give it to me." Like, they're like, "Give me the monster." Like, there's definitely some kids that are into the scary costumes, just in general. And then there's the other kids that are, like, hiding behind their parents because, "Oh god, skull dogs, it's gonna eat me," you know, because they have a natural fear instinct, unlike the other children, I guess. But they're okay with, you know, the bright, cutesy, colorful suits that are a lot more friendly looking. So it's very funny to see that divide in children. Because the ones that really like the skull dogs just ignore the rest of it. They're like, "You know what? You're cool, whatever, yeah, sure. But I want to see the big, scary skull dog man. I want to see the one with teeth." And it's very funny. But, like, I think one of my favorite things as far as interacting with kids is, you know, a lot of them are a little bit nervous, and, you know, their parents want them to get pictures. But the kids might be, you know, kind of shy. They're not sure if they want to come up to you, much less anything like that. Dude, yeah, there's some... Yeah, especially the older kids. The older kids really do get a kick out of the scary suits. Which is funny. But a lot of people in general really like the moving jaws, and like, that just really brings a suit to life for them. Which is a little unfortunate because I hate making moving jaws. I'm not particularly good at it, so I don't do that. And I don't often work off of other people's bases, so I don't usually get a chance to make ones with moving jaws. I do have the skull dog that I made, but I'm not particularly proud of that skull dog. I think it's good for my first attempt at a skull dog, but I'm not particularly proud of how it came out at the end of the day. I think there's some things that I would definitely change moving forward. Such as, like, putting a like making it a default that suits with moving jaws have head zippers. Like, that is just required, because getting into a suit like that with a moving jaw is pretty much impossible otherwise. Even though there's room for glasses in there, you really can't get your glasses in there because it doesn't have a zipper in the neck. But yeah, so there's definitely the kids that get the big kick out of the scary suits and the kids that get the big kick out of the cute suits. But there have been several times where, like, a small child, maybe about 4-ish, is kind of being pushed towards, like, go see the big yellow dog, go get a picture, they're nice, they're friendly, and their parents are, like, pushing them at me, and you can tell the kid's not necessarily, you know, excited for the interaction. They're a little bit nervous because, well, first off, it's a stranger that they're being shoved towards. Second off, it's a big scary dog. That's kind of weird, you know? Like, it's not something they're used to. So usually I find that in that case, offering my hand as far out as possible so they don't have to come super close to me for an interaction is a really good way to get children to be more comfortable, is to let them, you know, pet the hand, get a high five or whatever. And then a lot of times, because Patch does have a squeaker in one of his paws, so what I'll do is I'll clap to make it squeak, and then hold out the hand that has the squeaker in it, which his paws are interchangeable, so I actually have to do that to know which one has the squeaker in the first place. But a lot of times when I do that, and they realize there's a squeaker in it, and then I hold out for a high five, they get so excited. The kids love the squeaker in the hand paw, because then they can, you know, they can do the fun interaction and make the paw squeak, and it's not as scary anymore. And then they tend to be a lot more excited and into the interaction and ready to do a photo op, because that's what the parents want. You know, most of the time the pictures are because the parents want their kids to get a picture with the doggo, you know. And there's some kids that do like to come up for hugs. I try to avoid hugs, generally speaking, especially with smaller children, just because a lot of small children tend to be at crotch height. So a lot of hugs are just like, oh, they come in, okay, pat, 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 great. Like, that's the whole hug, is just pat, pat, done. Like, when you back up, I immediately, like, it's off as soon as they're backing up, and I'm just patting. Because there are some people that do not like seeing those interactions, and they think it's this terrible, horrible thing. Unfortunately, because stories have been shared, and that's the way it goes. So, and it's the same thing for, like, photos. Whenever a photo is taken with me and kids, I usually try to, you know, do like a big old ha, you know, and get my hands into the photo, or at the very least clearly away from children. Because the issue is people are very good at making allegations when hands can't be seen. Which is really sad. I wish that wasn't something that has to be thought about, but there are shitty people out there. There are shitty people who have existed, and it's something that I tend to keep in mind when interacting with the general public. But at the same time, despite all of that, there's still, you know, the joy that the children get to have, and the hype they get from seeing the spooky skull dogs, and the excitement they get from being able to high-five the squeaker. And there's been several times where I've been to an event surrounded by children who are like, dog thing! And they're all just, bah, 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 smack. I'm just like, alright, you guys have fun high-fiving the paw then, you know? Like, they're just, the same kid 6 times over wants to high-five the paw just because it squeaks, you know? And kids really get a kick, too, out of, like, the mimicking. So, like, if they come up to you and you, like, you know, you do little head tilts, sometimes they'll start dancing. So if you start, like, kind of copying how they dance, they start doing other things, like bouncing and stuff. So if you start, like, they get a real big kick out of copycat play. And that's always fun, too, you know, like, because it's simple, you know, especially for the kids that don't necessarily want to come up close to you because you're big and scary. It's a good way for them to get an interaction with you without them having to go out of their comfort zone, which is nice, you know, like, I try to include as many of the kids as possible without pushing their boundaries like some of their parents will. Like, there's been 1 or 2 times where a parent has pushed a child at me that did not want to be there, like to the point of like crying. They're starting to melt down. And I'm like, I'm actively trying to leave because this child very clearly does not want to interact with me. But the parents really want the picture, you know? And there was one time where there was a bit of a language barrier between me and the parents in the first place. But they had a small baby. Like, this baby was maybe a year old at best. Like, it was a baby that they're holding and carrying. And they want to get a picture, so they put the baby right here. And I'm like, baby, you know, like, picture. But that baby's fucking scared because that baby is the size of my fursuit head. My fursuit head is the same size as that small child. So it just starts screaming, and I'm like, yeah. But the parents really wanted the picture, so I was just trying to quick in and out, get the picture, leave, because there's no point. There was no way to communicate, like, hey, I don't know that your kid wants to take a picture with me. Maybe we shouldn't force your child next to the big scary animal. So it was easier to just kind of try and rush the interaction to make it end sooner for the child, rather than prolonging it. But I'm very, very excited for Johnson's again this year. Because first off, apple cider is always great. And there's always something to do at Johnson's. But also, I really like having those interactions with people in the community. And there are adults that come up and they ask about it, like how I made the suits and, you know, about why we're wearing them and what this is and stuff like that. And it's nice to be able to share it with people without the whole bullshit that media has put out there, you know, because I do get questions a lot like that, like, well, isn't this, you know, sex? And it's like, no, it's just like, and I tell people a lot, it's just like cosplay. We're just dressing up for fun. It's like Halloween, but all year round. We don't have to do it for a holiday, we just do it for fun. It's literally nothing else. And as soon as I mention that it's like cosplay, a lot of adults are suddenly like, oh, that's great, you know, it's amazing, it's a great thing. And I feel like that's really helping a lot with the stigma for at least locally for furries, because I know there are some people that are very much like, this is horrible and disgusting, because they're misunderstanding because they've been told other things. When I was a mascot for my high school and uni, I went through this a lot. Thankfully, my handler did know how to approach kids and make the situation a little better. See, having a handler is definitely extremely helpful. And there are definitely some very persistent parents. There just are. They don't seem to really care that their kid is uncomfortable as much as they care about getting the photo taken, whether it's because they want to gloat about it on Facebook or what, I don't know. It depends on the person, I'm sure. But having a handler does make stuff so much easier. It really does. And the unfortunate thing is I generally do not have a handler with me. Very rarely do I have someone out of suit that is along with me when I go do these things. I'm generally out with other friends, but those friends are usually also suiting. Or they're off doing their own thing. So while I'm at an event with other furries and not just wandering by myself, I generally don't have a person specifically there to make sure interactions go well. The upside is that, like, with Patch, I'm not necessarily a mute suitor, which is nice. Alfie, I used to do only mute with Alfie because I felt like my voice did not match him. Because he's this very bubbly, you know, reindeer character that I used to do. And he was supposed to be cutesy and whatnot, but at the same time, he was a male, and I still feel like I have a fairly feminine voice. Although I'd say my voice fits better now than it did back then. So I would just run around and do stuff mute. So when people would ask me questions, I would, you know, gesture and stuff like that, and it was a lot easier because he had his antlers that would bounce too, so, you know, it was very easy to play into the bouncy character while doing stuff mute. But it did make a lot of situations that were very difficult because I wasn't speaking, you know? And obviously if it were, like, an issue of, like, security or, like, cops or something that were like, hey, what are you doing here? That's when you throw that shit out the window. You stop playing the game and you tell them, like, you take your suit head off, you break the magic, and you be like, hey, nothing illegal is going on here. I am just vibing. Which thankfully has not been an issue that I've run into. But if that is ever the case, that is what happens, you know? But with Patch, I'm perfectly fine with voicing in him. More often than not, though, when it comes to small children, I don't. Because I've noticed that talking in suit to the little kids, like ones that are like 8 and under, tends to throw them off and freak them out. Like, I don't know what it is, but a lot of small children do get freaked out when the suits talk back. They very much like the nonverbal interactions a lot better, from my experience at least. But having a handler is definitely very helpful, especially since a lot of suits can't see below here. I think a lot of people don't realize this. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, your vision must be so small. You're so small vision, like you're tight in and you can't see your peripheral. I feel like a lot of people understand you can't see, like, your peripheral. But a lot of the general public, and even a lot of other suitors don't even think about, is that you really can't see below eye level, like below your shoulders. So there's been a lot of times where I've, you know, noticed a small child and had to point out to the suitors nearby, hey, small child, keep a lookout, don't bump them with your legs, because that is unfortunately what happens, is small children are very sneaky. They don't exactly make a lot of noise all the time, especially if you're in an already loud place, and they will sneak up behind you, and then you back up or move to the side or something, and suddenly you're bowling over this poor 20-pound child who just wanted to come say hi and you didn't know they were there. Hi, Nave. How's it going? I see you found your way into the stream. But yeah, so it's very hard sometimes. Yeah, is it because it's hot and humid because it's Florida? They always like to say they get all 4 seasons. They're liars. They get hot, they get hotter, and then they get fall. I know. Spade does have Knave's head, by the way. So he has him for you. He will have him until you come back. Do you know how long you're gonna be down there? Is it like a year-long type thing, or just a few months? So it's a year-long type thing. Gotcha. There, buddy. Someday you'll be back. And then you can run around in Nave. But yeah, I do miss going out and about and doing things and events and stuff. Because I think that's actually what I like the least about the Furball. Aside from it being really far away because it's down near Detroit. Over here doxing myself. I like going to the Furball. But there's this very weird vibe at the bowl, right? Because, like, you don't really want to leave the bowling alley that much. Like, you don't want to leave the property because it's kind of a sketchy area. But there's not really that much else around anyway to go to. But also, you go there and then the people who are at the bowling alley that aren't the furries glare a lot. Like, there's a lot of people that seem like they're witnessing something that should be illegal. You know, like, disgusting. Like, the same way that old people look at people in short shorts, like they wish that they could make whatever you're doing illegal, even though it's perfectly harmless. And there really is an odd vibe a lot of the time. And that's a lot of what it is. This is generally older people that are glaring and upset that you're there in their bowling alley, you know? So it's just a really... Because like, that wasn't an issue at other bowls I'd been to. But at that one in particular, it seems to be interesting. And then it tends to be pretty packed as well between the people who are there with their families and stuff for the bowling and the people who are there for the fur bowl. Because it's a particularly busy one down there. So it's nice because then I get to see everybody I don't normally see. But it's also kind of boring and bland and odd vibes, you know. So I wish there was more events, and I wish there was more opportunities to interact with people and do stuff. Because I remember there used to be so many fur meets, like in Frankenmuth. There was at least a few of those in the same year, the one year. And then that kind of fell by the wayside, and then there used to be some meets out in Saginaw and Bay City and stuff like that. More towards mid-Michigan, but I feel like most of them are really down by Detroit and a bit of a hassle to go to. But I am really, really looking forward to Johnson's this year. I really hope that continues on for a long time, for several years to come. Because I really like doing the Johnson's Fur Meet every year. That is the highlight of my year, honestly. Like, I will reschedule appointments if I have to. I will cancel cons just to go to Johnson's. It is by far one of my favorites. And I'm also excited for MCFC, because that's always a fun time to go to. I do like going to MCFC. I'm very excited for this year in particular, seeing as it's going to be in the Renaissance Center. So I'm very excited to see what the new venue is actually like in person, and how they're going to set everything up for panels and the Dealer's Den and Artist Alley and stuff like that. But I also just want to see, like, how... Oh, big sad. You having a good nap? So rough, I know. I really want to see how everything works out. And I guarantee there's going to be some minor hiccups here and there this year, just because it's a new venue and all new stuff, so they're having to, you know, work out the kinks. But I'm very excited for it in general, just because we've been outgrowing the old convention space quite a bit. I also wonder if they're going to do a parade of any sort, because I know, you know, at the other convention they would do kind of an inside, a little bit outside parade. I don't know if they're going to do that for the Renaissance Center, and if they are going to, how they're going to do it. I'm very interested in that aspect as well. But it'll also be nice, since we're down there, to go sightseeing in the general area, see the fountain and the statues and stuff like that at Hart Plaza. We could see Belle Isle from the hotel, so that'll be dope. Canada, we can see Canada from the hotel. We can wave to our fellow Canadian furry friends and our fellow Canadian non-furry friends. Always fun. I've been blanket stitching this whole thing. I'm going to have to go back over it with a zigzag anyway. There's no point in doing a blanket stitch. Gosh darn it. Oh well. Just uses a bit more thread. Choking on my spit. Ah! Sometimes I just breathe in my own saliva, and it's not a good time. It's the way it goes. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to events for this year. We did get very lucky, fun announcement. We got very lucky, and we are vending at YumaCon this year, which is an anime convention down at the Huntington Place in Detroit. I was a bit surprised because we sell furry stuff, not really anime. But you know, it is what it is. I'm not complaining. It's a very fun surprise. And I am very excited. So we will be doing that in the very end of October, very beginning of November, because it's the 30th through the 2nd. So that overlapping weekend there between the months. Okay, bye. We will be vending down there. We'll have a booth. They haven't released a whole lot of details yet on the information for the vendors as far as like what booths we have, what hall we're in, stuff like that. I do know that the vendors are supposedly going to be in halls C and D. But as far as the exact details for when things will be open and what space we specifically will have, gosh darn it, Forrest! Get off my fur, please. You're messing up my layout. Thank you. At least you kind of sort of put it back. Yeah, hi. You're a butt. You're a spoiled little baby. Spoiled little baby mans. Oh, big yawn. Hi. I'm sorry I won't let you sleep on the fur that I'm trying to sew. And keep organized. Look at the big baby. He's just a big baby. Yeah, are you a big baby? Oh, do you want uppies? Do you want uppies? Yeah? There you go. Is this what you wanted? Yeah, well, you gotta sit up. There you go. He's like, no, mother, this is not what I wanted. Can you lay down, please? I know it. I know it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, hi. Hi. Can you lay down, please? I know. He's been so bored all morning. Oh, big yawn. He has been so bored all morning. His life is so rough. It's been too hot outside for us to go running around doing stuff. And he just wants to sprint and play all day long. Yeah, you're a big baby. Yes, you are. You have to wait for it to cool off. It's too hot. You'll cook. You'll turn into roasted poodle. Yeah. You're already burnt. Like a burnt hot dog. Bingus, don't wag your tail at that. She's like, I love hot dogs. I love burnt hot dogs. They're my favorite. You're a dork, Bingus. But yeah, we are very excited for vending at YumaCon. We will be bringing quite a bit of stuff with us. We're hoping to bring some new things that we haven't brought to cons before, as well as some other stuff that we have brought before, like our coloring books, and some pre-mades, and some tails for sale, pins and keychains, you know, the works. But we are also looking at bringing some more, we're going to bring crochet patterns this year, because we've noticed that a lot of people are very interested in learning crochet, and I do in fact sell crochet patterns, so we are going to print off a handful of each pattern that we have that we can bring and sell those at the con for anyone who's interested in crocheting some fun patterns. We are also going to be bringing our coloring books. We are also going to be bringing out I'm thinking depending on how much time I have between doing commission work and stuff like that, I'm hoping we can bring a new project that I'm working on, but we won't be certain until I have some designs for that to actually work on. Still working out the idea, but hopefully we'll have some new stuff for that. And if there's enough time, we'll bring some bandanas, which we haven't made and brought to a con before. I have made bandanas in the past, just not any that are as pre-made bandanas. We mostly done ones for commission. Huzzah! Your workout is done! Bird dogs, huh? That sounds interesting. Does it involve your toes? Does it involve them dogs? You taking your tootsies hunting? The only bird dogs I know are Brittany's. That's not true. Some of them are labs. Fun fact, poodles were actually bred as a sporting breed. They were bred for retrieving waterfowl, just like labs were. And yet, there is the stereotype that poodles are prissy dogs who wouldn't even dare to get their feet wet because of their haircuts. Another fun fact, the continental haircut, the cut that we generally think of when we think of poodles, is actually because they're hunting dogs, and it's a historical haircut that hails from Germany. Very funny, very furry. On my bed because it's the only space that's not on the floor and I can't get up and down from the floor easily. Hands and knees. Oh, I know what you're talking. Is that what that's called? I feel like that I've heard that go by a lot of different names. Interesting. Does that mess with your head a lot, or is that a more easy one on you? But anywho's, back to poodle haircuts and the historical of the continental cut on poodles. The reason the cut looks so funny is actually because they are a water dog. And poodle hair is very good at wicking off water because it is a very coarse hair, similar to 4C hairstyle. It's not fluffy like a lab. They don't have a double coat. They have a very human-like curly hair. At least the adults do. The puppies do have a very fluffy, soft, cloud-like coat. Forrest is currently going through his coat change, so he has a bit of both. But the continental cut, the continental cut functions because it's for dogs that are hunting, you know, water sport, for birds, waterfowl, you know, ducks and stuff, hunting, retrieving. They jump into the water, they go get the birds. So they wanted to shave off any excess coat so they wouldn't become waterlogged and sink more easily, but they leave coat around areas that need to be protected from the cold water to protect the joints. So they leave a bunch of coat around the ears, because that is an extremity that gets cold very easily. So the ears, the head, they leave fur around the chest, because that's where all of the organs are, and that helps protect them and keep the torso warm. They shave around here, because there's no joints that necessarily need protection around the waist. They leave puffs on the hip bones, so that's why there's the balls on the hips of poodles, because that helps protect their hip joints. They leave fur on the tail to help keep the tail warm and protect all the joints in the tail. And then they leave fur on the wrists to help protect the wrist joints, which is why they have the puffs on their wrists and ankles. So it's all to actually benefit the dog for working. But these days, a lot of dogs that are in the continental cut are in it mostly for show. That is why they do it in shows, is because it's a historical cut for, you know, preserving the history of poodles. Which is something I learned in recent years. I always knew they were sporting breeds. I didn't know that they that there was a reason like that behind the continental cut, though. Apparently, the being positioned downward does mess with my head, but desensitization. Interesting. has your head been doing better about PT in general? Because I know it's been messing with you quite a bit, but I wonder if maybe it's kind of like a curve situation, where like it gets worse before it gets better type deal. But yes, yay, history! This is like the one part of history that I know. Everything else is other people's history. That other people know better than I do, because this is the part where I don't have to remember names or specific dates. I just have to remember stuff that happens to dogs. Which is very interesting. But yes, poodles are a hunting breed, which is actually where we get the standard poodle from. And then there is the miniature poodle and the toy poodle. So the standard poodle is about the size of a lab, so there are large breed poodles. Though technically, according to breed standard, a standard poodle is any poodle that is taller than 13 inches. In Europe, they're around 14-ish, 15-inch inches. Whereas in the States, most standard poodles are about 20 to 24 inches in height. Forrest is about 24 inches at the shoulder. So he's on the taller end of that spectrum. And he weighs about 45, 50 pounds. I think right now we're hitting about 50. I haven't weighed him in a minute, so. Still got good days, still got bad days. Balancing a lot better than you did on day one. That's good. At least your balance is getting better. That's some sort of improvement. Yeah. I think definitely building up muscle is, like, building up the endurance as well as the muscle is very beneficial for a lot of things. Because, like, I've noticed I don't feel as shitty now that I'm running around more with the dogs in the backyard, which is nice. Because, like, I used to be fairly fit, and then as time went on, I just kind of, but Forrest likes to chase me around the house, and I try to outrun him, and I cannot because I only have 2 legs and he has 4. But yeah, so the poodle comes in standard size, which is a fairly large breed. Some people call them a medium-sized breed, some people call them a large-sized breed. It really depends on the lineage that a specific poodle has. And what your breeder recommends as far as feeding them and stuff like that. What your breeder and your vet recommend. There is also the miniature poodle, which is up to 13 inches, but I think it's 8 to 13 inches, I can't quite remember. And then of course there's a toy poodle, which I feel like is what a lot of people think of, and that is the teeny tiny poodle. But there are various sizes of poodles. They can come in a whole range of size. They can come in a whole range of colors. They don't just come in white or black. They actually do they come in a variety of creams and whites and blacks, browns. There are brown and red poodles. Though granted, whether you're looking at AKC standards or other Kennel Club standards, it varies on what the colors are called and what is considered what. But you can get colors like apricot. You can even get colors like silver, because the black poodles have a there is a recessive fading gene. So if the parents carry that gene, oh, you have fur on you, bud. The skin tone, the fur will actually sort of turn gray at the roots. So whereas Forrest is solid black through and through, as the dog ages, whenever you shave their face, it'll look like they have a long black coat, but then silver face, silver skin, which is very interesting. Sometimes this actually leads out into the rest of the coat, and they will look silver through and through, which is cool. But there are also party-colored poodles, which means you can in fact have a poodle. Forrest, stop licking yourself. Thank you. Which is a poodle that has patches of different colors. So you could have a white poodle with brown patches, or a white poodle with black patches, or a black poodle with white patches. I'm not entirely sure what the standards are on the color patterns and what colors are acceptable with party poodles, but you can in fact have multicolored poodles, which is interesting to me. I personally did not want a party poodle because I got a poodle to be my service dog. And there is a very big stigma against doodles being service dogs because ethical breeding standards and temperament, yada yada. And there is this idea that doodles are inherently aggressive dogs, which is not true. I think there are 1 or 2 cases where a dog is prone to being aggressive, but a lot of aggression in breeds like doodles, retrievers, and stuff like that is more upbringing and people getting a dog and not properly training it or exercising it and things like that. And some of it's just unfortunate, you know, it's... Some dogs have bad experiences and become aggressive. It's the way it goes. But I did not want my poodle being mistaken for being a doodle. Because I get asked... Sarah gets mistaken for being a German Shepherd sometimes. And she is very much a lab mix. She does not have the long German Shepherd coat or the German Shepherd face. She also gets mistaken as a purebred lab, but that's because people don't know what the standard is for labs. So... And I get very tired of having to explain that to people. So I wanted a poodle that looked like a poodle. Because that would be easier to explain than a party poodle. Because there are people, believe it or not, that will sit there and argue with you about whether or not your dog is purebred or mixed. I have had people try to tell me that Sarah must be a purebred lab. She is not, in the slightest. So I'm just trying to, you know, blend in and get as few invasive questions about my dogs, my service dogs, as much as possible. So we ended up with a solid color poodle. I wasn't particular on the color for mine, so we ended up with a black one because his entire litter was black anyway. We didn't really have a choice as far as color went. And he is a very good boy, most of the time. He's still a puppy, so he's learning. Yeah, so you're still learning. But yeah, so poodles can actually come in multiple different colors and in different color patterns. And they do have some fun playing around with recessive genes and how the color patterns work for that. Yeah. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, baby mans. Oh, goodness, hi. Oh, big stretch. Oh, I heard your back pop. Good lord. Is that a good stretch? Is that a good stretch? Yeah, so Forrest here is a standard poodle. He is a tall boy. Yes, you are. You're a tall boy. You look so sad right now. Why? Is it because you're eepy? Are you drooping because you're eepy? Are you drooping because you're bored? He likes to make the saddest faces on the planet. Stop it. Stop it. Why are you licking me? Even as a puppy, like before we got him and the breeder was sharing pictures, I said that he just looked like he had such a sad face. And it's because he has a tendency to hold his ears back. I don't know what that's about, but even just like casually sitting, watching, vibing, if he's mildly inconvenienced even, he will put his ears back and just look real sad. So sad. And if you tell him no, his tail will go from being the straight up standard that a poodle tail is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a high carried tail. And he would just slowly drop his tail and look like you just told him that you killed his whole family, all because you told him no, he could not in fact eat the garlic bread. Because garlic bread is bad for dogs, believe it or not. But of course, yeah, you don't know about that. You don't know that garlic bread is bad for you. No, you don't. No, you don't. Oh my goodness, hi. Hello. Hi. Can I help you, sir? Can I help you, sir? What? Treat for the Bingus and the baby mans. You guys want cookies? Yeah, I got you guys cookies. I did. I made sure to have... Yeah. Oh, do you guys see Bingus? Oh, you can barely see her snoot. She is excited. Alright, you gotta sit. Oh, good boy. Good sitting. Good sitting. Can I get a boo? Oh, good job. How about a shake? No, you gotta shake. Good boy. There you go. These are some high reward treats, so I want them to actually work for these ones. Can I get a boop? Because like, I can't reach you. I don't want to sit up, but I can't reach you. Oh, that's funny. What are you doing, bud? What are you doing, huh? What? Oh, bless you, Bingus. What? Oh, you gotta go potty? Alright, alright. Let me see if I can find the right button. Because it should be this. Did I do it? Did I succeed? I succeeded! I have remembered my buttons. Huzzah. Oh, except now I'm clicking all over my laptop and that's not helping any button. Hi, hello. Oh, I know it. We gave you a cookie and now you're a needy baby. Yeah. Yeah, are you? Are you a needy little baby? Can you lay down, please? He's like, no, I'm busy sniffing. We are back. We are back from the potty break. Forrest. Lay down, please. Lay down. Thank you, good boy. He's a goof. Yeah, you're a little butthole. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Little pain in my butt. Oh, straight stitching. Gosh darn it. Stop touching my toes. Grass stuck in your fur. I don't know. But yeah. So poodles come in all kinds of different sizes, different colors, and you don't have to give him the continental cut. Forrest is proof of that. He's gone through many a haircut since we've gotten him. Yeah, so you're kind of bald right now. Yes, you are. We've given him a mustache before. We have. He had a little Sam Elliott style mustache going. Our current plan is to let him grow his hair back out and give him a mohawk. We're gonna give him a lion cut first to make him look like a lion because I think that'd be silly. And then also, we're going to grow out a mohawk that runs all the way down to his tail. And I want to dye the mohawk green, because there are pet-safe hair dyes. And there is a pet-safe hair lightener. It's not bleach, it's something different, but it works the same way. And we'll dye him green. We'll dye him forest green, because that is his color. But that's way forever from now. We're still waiting for his hair to grow back out. He's still fairly short. But anywho's. There's been a lot going on lately. Very, very busy weeks. And I'm trapped. There we go. Hi, can I help you? Ah. What? No. Hi, hello. We give him one cookie and suddenly he's the neediest baby on the planet. See, what is this tail drooping all about? What's the tail drooping all about? He just kind of vibes and his tail droops when he's just eeping. Like, what? He's like, you're not loving me, that's what. As a puppy, he used to actually get furious if you didn't use both of your hands to pet him. Like, he would throw tantrums if you wouldn't use both of your hands when petting him. He's just a big baby. He's a big baby. With big ol' ears. Big baby with the big ol' ears. Hi, yeah. He is a big old cuddle bug. If I am sitting on the couch, he insists on using me as a pillow. And he loves curling up and cuddling. Yes, you do. Yeah, no sense of personal space. Not a single bit. Not a single bit. Sweet. You're so needy. Can I do my job, please? See, this is what I mean. Like, he looks so sad. Look at him. Nobody ever loves him, ever in his life. Are you a poor baby? Are you a poor baby who never gets loved? You're a good boy. He just looks so sad. Are you a sad little boy? Are you a sad baby boy? And this is where he starts throwing a tantrum. Yeah, are you? Are you gonna start throwing a fit? You're gonna go meh. Meh. That is a sound he makes, by the way, for those of you who haven't heard it. He makes Minecraft villager sounds when he's upset and complaining about it. Because he does like to complain. He's a very vocal complainer. And he just kind of grumbles. Like, if you're, like, whenever he gets a bath and we're doing the part he doesn't like, he goes, Because he's not a big fan of getting the shampoo rinsed out. I don't think he likes how it feels, so he complains about it. If he's bored, he complains about it. If he's hungry, he complains about it. Pretty much if he's not. Don't lay on my fur. Thank you. Do not lay on that fur either. You're scattering all my pieces everywhere. How am I supposed to keep track of this suit if it's all over the place, bud? Can you lay down, please? Not on the fur. He's so spoiled. He's lucky he just had a bath the other day. Oh, now he's dead. One of these days, we are going to make him his own fur blanket because he very much has a thing with fur fabric. I don't know what the thing is, but he sure as fuck has it. And it is a problem. I have stuff to do later. Like, more sewing, really. That's most of what I have to do. But I have a lot of paperwork to do. Big old paperworks. There we go. I know, Bingus, your life is so rough. Laying in your own chair, all comfy like. I know, Forrest, your life is so rough. Laying on the floor, on top of all of my fur pieces. They're just big complainers. They act like they have such a rough life. To be fair, they've been cooped up the last few days because of the hot weather. I try to let them outside to run around and play and do stuff, but it's not always feasible. And it's supposed to get really hot this weekend. We will be doing... What is today? Today is Wednesday, right? I know what today is. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, today's Wednesday. So tomorrow, I will be doing another Roller Coaster Tycoon stream. And there are participation benefits. There is community participation, which is fun. Always, always fun. New followers get added to the peeps pile. Subs get their own small ride. Gifted subs get roller coasters. Raids get to be entertainers in the park. And mods get to be staff, because they help run the whole park. So we get to do all kinds of fun stuff. And then, of course, we get the joy of building roller coasters, which everybody loves. We all love building coasters. There we go. We are almost done with this piece, which is a good thing. And then we'll get to move on to sewing the funky ankle pieces. There are a lot of them. I have to actually organize what's what. But we'll figure it out. Once when we get more and more pieces together for this suit, it'll be easier and easier to figure out how they fit into each other. Especially when there's the big pieces like this that are separated. Because there is one or two pieces on the ankle that had to be cut in half or even into thirds in order to get them to function properly. I think there is actually a stripe on the ankle that was cut into 3 separate pieces, and it's one of these stripes that has the black in the middle. So that, you know, makes things a little bit more difficult. Because then technically that's 4 pieces for that one stripe, and then there's one of those stripes per ankle. So that's 8 pieces. Right there. Sorry, I'm zoning out here. I did have a suit once that had 105 spots on it. But that was for the entire suit, from head to feet, because there were spots on different parts of the suit. So they had a set of wings that had spots, they had a tail that had spots, stuff like that. So it was 105 total for spots. And I didn't realize it was that many. I thought it was going to be like 30. because this is actually an artistic liberty commission that I made. And it turned out really cute, but nah. Anywho's. Almost done with this one piece. Ow, I've been stabbed. Dang it. There we go. Ah. I like this one. This one's funky. I would like to someday. So there's a couple things I would like to do on the gaming front of streaming, just because I think it would be fun. I suddenly don't like this song. I would like to get an external disk drive so I can play some of my other old PC games, because I do have games like Zoo Tycoon 2, but that does require the disk to be inserted in order to play, and my laptop doesn't have a disk drive, so I have to get one. I have some old PC SpongeBob games I used to play a lot as a kid. Like, I have a lot of PC games. But I would also like to get an adapter so I could possibly do PlayStation games on stream, because I think that would be really fun. I have like the original Spyro, and I have a lot of odd games. Like, I have Pets Dogs 2 for the PlayStation, which is not the same as Pets Dogs for the DS, by the way. I don't know why that one, like, it's very specifically Pets Dogs 2 for the PlayStation is a completely different game than all other forms of Pets Dogs 2. Which is a weird choice. I don't know why they decided that was the thing. And it really, first off, it upset me as a child, and it made me really confused. But I think it also upset my mother, because she got the game for me as a gift. You know, as like a surprise. Like, hey, I got you that game you really wanted. And I was like, yay, the game I really wanted, where you get to take care of your dogs. And nope, this is not that. It's got a whole plot, actually. Very weird game. But, you know, it's still a cute game. And I think that'd be fun to show you guys, because that's a game I grew up playing a lot. So we could play that one, and we could play... I have a lot of games. I have a lot of old PlayStation 2 games. I'm very upset, because I would love to play through Midnight Club. That was one of my favorite games as a kid. And the unfortunate thing is that our disc for Midnight Club for the PlayStation 2 is scratched. Like, there's a major scratch on the disc. And it's right in the middle of the first mission. So it's so bad that it drops the game. It fails. So you can't even play any of the game because you can't play it. Which makes me very sad. And odds are it's my fault, because that game's probably older than I am, if I remember right. That disc is probably older than I am, I mean. So odds are little child me probably decided it was a great idea to play, and then proceeded to scratch the ever-loving shit out of it, as little childs do. Okay. See, because we have, like, this stripe, which, as you can see, is not a fully completed stripe. We have this one, which is also not a fully completed stripe. So we're going to try to organize these pieces. Yeah, because see this. I don't know how well you guys can see me laying it out. This connects to here. That goes to that one. See, but then this is where stuff gets... This is that one. Okay, this is just the other side. And these are their own individual little stripes. And this is what I mean by teeny tiny stripes. I'm trying not to lose them, so they're all together on this one piece. But, you know, they're the size of my thumb at best. Some of them. Here we go. And then this is supposed to connect to here, it looks like. So it'll connect like this. I don't know how this end connects, though. I need to get pieces. Where's the other one? Oh, okay, I have them all. These three, these three. I still don't know how these ones connect together. Did I miss a piece? Oh, God only knows, God only knows. Because I have two of these. These don't connect, do they? No, because these should all be striped. The stripes are all numbered. So these should all be striped 25, these three pieces. But stripe 27 looks like it should have another piece somewhere. Don't lick yourself. Don't sniff your toes. I feel like that's just as weird. You little weirdo. This is why we keep all of our extra pieces. And we keep them organized. Now I can look. Yeah, because here's strip 25. Yeah, because this is a totally different piece. This is the other half to these pieces that I, for some reason, don't have. Unless, wait a minute. Yeah, no. Well, it's a good thing we have extra yellow, because we're going to have to trace some more pieces. Unless they're secretly out in the living room where I've been sewing stuff. This looks like other 25. Yeah, this is this 25. And this is where the real confusion happens. I really don't know how these are supposed to go together. Yeah. Unless there's secretly a fourth option. Dun dun. But I have a feeling that it connects right here. Or, oh, that's how it connects. I figured it out. Okay. So, good stuff. See, this is why this is important, because I would have connected it to the wrong edge otherwise. This actually connects to this inner edge here, and then connects to these pieces. So we'll get that sewn together while that's in my brain. And then I guess we're gonna have to trace some other yellow pieces that we entirely missed when I was tracing them. Which means that this bodysuit is not, in fact, 215 pieces, but 217 pieces. Assuming I know how to count and we're not missing any other pieces. Both are debatable. Here you go, baby mans. I made room in your spot. Hi, hello. Oh, big stretch. Oh, big stretch. Oh! That was a big stretch. Can you move, piece? Thank you. I know, big needy baby. So bored. Don't smear on my fur, that's how you get stabbed. Don't smear on my fur, that's how you get stabbed. Good lord. Silly goose. Yeah, you're a big old baby. Go bug your dad. Go meet your dad, go get him. Go get him. Go. You guys are weirdos. Could you lay down, please? Oh, your breath, Bingle. Good lord. Stop breathing, please. Thank you. Good girl. Good dogs. Yeah, good dogs. Hey, you good boy. Okay. Sorry, it looked like you had something in your eyeball. It's just a reflection that looks really weird. It looked like you had like a fuzzy. I was trying to double check. Yeah. Yeah, it looked like you had a fuzzy in your eyeball. But nope, that's just Bingus reflecting in it. To be fair, Bingus is pretty fuzzy. Ooh, that would have been a problem. I was not paying enough attention to my scene. There we go. Actually, let's tuck this. Shoop. There we go. Now that's one piece connected right there. And this one looks really funky. This chunk will look really funky, especially once we get it sewn together. But that's because it's meant to wrap around the ankle shape, which is a cylinder, so it'll be curved and it'll look more smooth when it's actually curved versus flat. It makes a very big difference. I'm just plucking off the excess fuzzies from when we cut the fur. Cause would you stop touching me? He's over here smearing his nose on the underside of my foot. We're just pulling off the excess fur, because there's no reason for it to be shedding like crazy. Keep all of it from getting everywhere. My shirt is already furry from fuzzies. Fur fuzzies everywhere. Alright. Oh. Table. What is your deal with feet? Now he's over here sniffing Bingus's toes. Because he's a little weirdo. Yes, you are. You're a little... Would you stop sniffing? Stop sniffing toes. It's weird. Trust me, I know weird. Anything, I'm a weirdness expert. He also likes to steal socks. I don't know what his deal is. He's a little weirdo. But hopefully this will help quite a bit with getting all the pieces to line up. Not entirely. We have pretty much nothing stitched. In comparison to like the 115. Well, fun fact, we're actually short a couple pieces that I have to trace for the yellow stripes. So it's actually 117 pieces. Look at you go. Sir, why are you inhaling everything? He's over here snorting my chair. But no, the plan is to finish up the stripes. Right now I'm working on the ankle stripes and get those sewn together. And then we'll sew the top. That's going to take some effort. But odds are the arms will be one of the first things to be done. We have almost all of these big stripes done. The ones that have the black centers. I think it's just... I think there's only 4 of them left to actually sew together. Because this right here is stripe number 25. And this is one of the ankle stripes. And it is 3 pieces just for the yellow. So we have to actually sew the yellow together and then sew the black center. And this one looks funky, but as I said earlier, it'll look better when it's wrapped around the ankle, because it's one of the ones that goes most of the way around. It's a lot of sewing. But we have, I believe, about... I'd have to count again. Last night I did a count before I went to bed. And I had 20 out of 115 sewn. Now that we know it's 117, you know, 20 out of 117. But I think right now we're closer to 30? I'd have to count again. So we're making progress. But it's still, there's pretty much not much put together. There is not a whole lot, but generally speaking, we're going to work our way top down on the suit, because we're going to have to do the top half before we can do the bottom half. Just because that's how your stripes kind of line up. But at the same time, we need to do the crotch before we can do most of the front. But in order to do the front at all, we have to attach the shoulders. So it's really weird and complicated. It'll make sense, but we're getting there. We're making progress, slowly but surely. You probably won't see any noticeable difference for a few more days. And then we'll kind of start seeing chunks come together. Kind of. Like, we'll probably have the arms done here in the next couple days, depending. And then we'll hopefully get the machine out and start Really, man? We'll hopefully get the machine out and start machine sewing. Doing the double pass on a lot of these bigger stripes, and then also sewing in the zipper probably sometime this week. But it all depends. It all depends on how far we actually get. Yeah. Oh, son of a bitch. Well, now I gotta fix that. Alright. I accidentally twisted the piece while I was sewing it, so now it won't. So now it's like this, because this part's all twisted. Dang it. I don't normally have to do such long, skinny pieces that are shaped like so into a circle. Come on, don't be a pain in my butt to undo. Damn me and my good stitching. Why do I have to be so good at sewing? There we go. Yeah. Alright, let's try this piece again. And sew it properly. Don't you sigh at me. You don't even have thumbs. Bingus is over here looking goofy in the chair. Her little ears folded up, and she's all smooshed into the chair, like... Yeah. Grandma having a rough day of it. Is she, is she, is she? Ah, there we go. I'm glad Forrest is entertaining himself. And of course I ran out of thread right then too, so now I have to rethread my needle just to finish this piece. This whole process is insanely faster by machine. Unfortunately, I am not very accurate with machine sewing. I need a pretty large seam allowance. Like this piece right here would probably be fairly easy to do on the machine. But I gave myself too small of a seam allowance, so it'd be a little tedious. Since I have to hand sew all the funky shapes anyway, because I can't really do these triangular corners on the machine. It's really, really difficult to do. We'll just do hand sewing. Sir, I'm glad you're having fun, but does it have to be on top of my fabric? I had that all nice and organized. Hi. Good lord. Well, I'm gonna have to reorganize all those pieces later, because apparently somebody can't stay off my fabric. I didn't realize he was scooting with his ball across the floor. I'm glad you're staying entertained, but maybe you should do that in the living room. Okay, hold on. I'm throwing it once. After that, it's your problem. Well, Bingus can't throw it for you. She's Bingus. He's over here dropping it at Sarah's feet. He's been a butt all morning. He's just very him. I'm not throwing it for you again. It wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that I had all of the pieces laid out nicely. And he has repeatedly, since yesterday, scattered them. Like an asshole. But also the poor puppy, he's so poor. There we go. Now it's not all twisted up. And now that one's done. There's some pieces. Here. Bingus, stop breathing, good lord. You're panting in my direction. Just, it's so stinky. Thank you. She's just sitting there. And her breath is rancid. Yeah, you got stinky breath. You smell like you're melting from the inside out, man. Okay, let's count the stitches we have mostly sewn together so far. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So about 30-ish. And those are just the ones that are sewn to each other. They aren't even sewn into the suit yet, per se. Like, they're just these sewn together. But yeah, we're making progress. Stuff's happening. Slowly but surely. Eek. Scooting. He's just over here staring at me. He's like, Mother, why are you rolling? We do have to trace 2 more of these, I believe, because we only have these ones. And seeing as this is side 1 and this says it's side 2, and it does not line up at all, I appear to be missing them. So we actually are 2 pieces short, which makes this suit 217 pieces, assuming I know how to count. This is assuming a lot of shit. I might not know how to count that high. I can only count to 4. So, since it's already pretty much 4 o'clock, we will skedaddle and we will find someone to raid. Let's see. It's a lot easier to find people on desktop than it is on my phone. Ooh. Let's see. This looks interesting. We are going to raid over here because they are doing some lace work, some bobbin lace, which I have no idea how to do, but it's always something that's interested me. So we're going to skedaddle over there and we'll have some fun. And then I will see you guys tomorrow for another, it's supposed to be hot this weekend, so it's probably going to be another Roller Coaster Tycoon stream and not a suit making stream, because we're lucky that it's cool enough in the office today, and it's supposed to be even hotter tomorrow than it was on Monday. So we'll see. It depends, but it's probably going to be a gaming stream tomorrow. And we shall raid. I will see you guys tomorrow.